Hello and welcome to Slow Thoughts in English. My name is Adam, and the person sitting with me today is Rachel. Here we take our time, we talk slowly, and we explore everyday thoughts in simple, natural English. Today we're talking about something many of us know very well, coming home after a tiring day at the office. Why does office work, even when it doesn't look physically hard, leave us feeling so exhausted? Let's talk about that. Part 1. Why office work makes us feel so tired.
When people talk about being tired, they often think of physical work. Lifting things, standing all day, moving constantly. But office work is different. You sit most of the time. You're inside. You're not using your body that much. And yet, when the day ends, the tiredness feels heavy. I remember coming home some days, taking off my shoes and just standing there, not doing anything, not even knowing what to do next. It wasn't my body asking to rest. It was something deeper, mental tiredness, emotional tiredness, the kind that doesn't disappear after a short nap. And for a long time, I didn't understand why.
I think one reason office work feels so tiring is because the effort is invisible. You don't see clear results at the end of the day. You don't hold anything in your hands and say, "I finished this." Instead, you deal with emails, meetings, messages, deadlines that move quietly. Your brain is constantly switching. One moment you're answering a message. The next, you're listening in a meeting. Then you're trying to focus again. That constant switching costs more energy than we realize. And because nothing feels finished, your mind doesn't rest. Even when the computer is turned off, part of your attention is still open, still waiting.
Yes, and there's also the pressure to always appear fine. In an office, you're expected to look calm, capable, professional. Even on days when you feel confused, overwhelmed, or unsure. You can't always say, "I don't know what I'm doing. I feel lost today. I need a break." So you carry those feelings quietly. You smile. You nod. You respond politely. And that emotional control, hour after hour, is exhausting. By the time you leave, you're not just tired from working. You're tired from holding yourself together.
Another thing that makes office work heavy is the lack of clear boundaries. Work doesn't always stay at work. Messages arrive in the evening. Emails wait in your inbox. Notifications light up your phone. Even when you're home, part of your mind is still at the office. You think about what you said, what you should have said, what you still need to do tomorrow. That constant connection creates a feeling that you're never fully done. And when something never ends, your energy slowly leaks away. Not suddenly, but day by day.
There's also the emotional weight of relationships at work. Not everyone you work with is difficult, but even small tensions matter. A short reply, a meeting that feels uncomfortable, a moment where you felt ignored. None of these things are dramatic on their own, but together they build up. And because office environments are polite, you often can't express those feelings openly, so they stay inside. By the time you go home, you may not remember one big problem. You just feel drained. And you don't know exactly why.
What helps me is understanding that this tiredness doesn't mean weakness. It means you're paying attention. It means you care. It means you're using your mind deeply. Office work asks a lot from parts of us that don't show on the outside. Focus, patience, emotional awareness. When we recognize that, the tiredness feels more understandable. Not something to fight. Not something to feel ashamed of, just something to acknowledge. And sometimes, that understanding alone makes coming home feel a little lighter.
Coming home after a tiring day doesn't mean the day failed. It means you spent energy being present in a complex space. Before we try to fix anything or improve anything, it helps to simply notice this. To say, "Yes, today was tiring, and that makes sense." That's where real rest begins, not by pushing forward, but by allowing ourselves to stop for a moment.
Part 2. The quiet stories that slowly wear us down. There are certain moments at work that don't feel important at the time. They seem small, easy to ignore. But when you think about your day later, those are often the moments that stayed with you. Not the big projects, not the deadlines everyone talks about, but the quiet moments in between. The meeting that lasted longer than necessary. The conversation that felt slightly uncomfortable. The feeling of sitting there and wondering why you were there at all. These moments don't announce themselves as problems, they just quietly take a little bit of energy and then move on. And by the end of the day, you're left wondering where all that energy went.
One story I hear again and again is about meetings. Not difficult meetings, not emotional ones, just long ones. Meetings where nothing really happens, where the same points are repeated, where you listen, but you're not sure what you're supposed to do next. You sit there, trying to stay attentive, trying to look engaged, but inside, you feel yourself slowly drifting. And when the meeting ends, there's no clear result, just the feeling that time passed and you gave something to it. That kind of tiredness is quiet, but it stays with you.
One story I hear again and again is about meetings. Not difficult meetings, not emotional ones, just long ones. Meetings where nothing really happens, where the same points are repeated, where you listen but you're not sure what you're supposed to do next. You sit there trying to stay attentive, trying to look engaged. But inside you feel yourself slowly drifting. And when the meeting ends, there's no clear result. Just the feeling that time passed and you gave something to it. That kind of tiredness is quiet, but it stays with you. Another common story is about expectations. Sometimes they're not spoken out loud. No one clearly says, "This is what I expect from you." Instead, you feel it in small signals. A message sent late in the evening. A quick comment like, "Can you just take a look at this?" You don't want to seem unhelpful. You don't want to be difficult. So you say yes. And slowly the line between work time and personal time becomes blurry. Not because anyone demanded it, but because saying no felt uncomfortable.
There's also the story of effort not being visible. You work carefully, you prepare, you think things through, but the results are subtle. No one claps, no one notices. Sometimes, the only feedback you receive is when something goes wrong. And even then, it's quick. You fix it, you move on. Over time, that can make you question yourself. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly asking, does this matter?
Office environments are also full of small roles we didn't officially agree to play. Being the one who always listens, the one who solves problems quietly, the one who keeps things smooth. These roles are rarely written down, but once you're in them, it's hard to step out. You feel responsible, you feel needed. And while that can feel good, it also adds weight. By the end of the day, you're not just tired from tasks, you're tired from being many things at once.
What makes these stories difficult is that none of them seem serious enough to complain about. There's no big conflict, no clear mistake. So when you feel tired, you sometimes tell yourself you shouldn't be. You think, others have it harder. This isn't a real problem. But tiredness doesn't work that way. It doesn't ask for permission. And when we ignore it for too long, it shows up later. At home, in silence, when the day is finally over.
These office stories are common because they're human. They happen when people work together for long hours, day after day. Understanding them doesn't solve everything, but it helps us stop blaming ourselves. It helps us see that feeling tired after work isn't a personal failure. It's a response. And once we understand the stories, we can start thinking, slowly and gently, about how to live with them better. Part 3. How we try to cope and what actually helps. When people talk about coping with work, they often imagine big changes. Quitting, starting something new, changing everything at once. But most of the time, that's not what really happens. What usually happens is much quieter. We wake up, we go to work, and we try to get through the day without falling apart. I've noticed that my first way of coping is pretending I'm fine. I tell myself, it's not that bad. I can handle this. And sometimes that works. But sometimes, pretending takes more energy than the work itself. That's when I realize I'm not actually coping. I'm just holding my breath.
I do something similar. When the day feels heavy, I try to distract myself. Scrolling, listening to something, keeping my mind busy. It helps for a moment, but later, when things finally slow down, all the feelings return, sometimes stronger. I remember sitting on the couch, still in my work clothes, staring at nothing. Not sad enough to cry, not calm enough to rest, just stuck. That's when I realized that distraction isn't rest, it's just delay.
Another way we try to cope is by joking about it. We say things like, work is just work. At least it's not worse. We laugh with colleagues. We send memes. We complain in a light way. And honestly, that helps more than we admit. Humor creates space. It lets us release pressure without making things too serious. But sometimes we hide behind it. We laugh even when something actually hurts. And later, when we're alone, the laughter fades. That's when the quiet returns.
For me, what really helps starts with permission. Permission to admit, yes, today was hard. Not dramatic, not emotional, just honest. I don't need a solution right away. I don't need to fix my job or fix myself. Sometimes, naming the tiredness is enough to soften it. When I stop judging my feelings, they become easier to carry. They don't disappear, but they stop fighting me.
I've also learned that coping doesn't always mean improving. Sometimes it means making things smaller. Not asking, how do I love my job? But asking, how do I survive today without losing myself? A short walk, a quiet meal, turning off notifications for a while. These things don't solve work, but they protect something inside us. And that protection matters more than we think.
I like that idea, protecting something inside. Because motivation doesn't always come from excitement or passion. Sometimes it comes from knowing we are allowed to be tired and still continue. Not pushing harder, not forcing positivity, just showing up again tomorrow with a little more kindness toward ourselves. That kind of motivation doesn't shout, it whispers, and somehow it lasts longer.
Coping with office life isn't about finding the perfect method. It's about listening to what you need on each day. Some days you need distraction. Some days you need rest. Some days you need honesty. All of those are valid. And if today was tiring, that doesn't mean you failed. It means you were present. And that's enough for now. Part 4. Finding motivation without forcing it. When people talk about motivation, they often talk about energy, about feeling excited, about feeling ready, about feeling strong. But after a tiring day, that kind of motivation feels very far away. Sometimes I come home and sit down, and the only thing I feel is silence. Not peaceful silence, just emptiness. And for a long time, I thought something was wrong with me. I thought motivation was something I was supposed to have no matter how the day went. But slowly, I started to understand something different. Motivation doesn't always come first. Sometimes it comes after we allow ourselves to rest.
I relate to that a lot. There were days when I waited to feel motivated before doing anything, and those days felt endless, because motivation never arrived. What I learned is that after a long day, motivation doesn't look like excitement. It looks like permission. Permission to sit quietly. Permission to not be productive for a while. Permission to exist without improving. When I give myself that permission, something changes. Not immediately, but slowly the heaviness loosens. And from that space, a very small willingness appears. Not to do everything, just to take one gentle step.
I think one of the hardest things about office work is that it teaches us to measure our value by output, by results, by visible effort. So when we come home tired, we feel like we've lost something, like we're not enough anymore unless we keep going. But the truth is, continuing doesn't always mean pushing. Sometimes continuing means staying. Staying with your tiredness, staying with your frustration, staying with the part of you that wants to stop. That kind of staying isn't weakness, it's resilience, just a quieter kind.
I used to think that being motivated meant feeling certain, feeling confident about tomorrow. But most evenings, I don't feel that way. I don't know if tomorrow will be easier. I don't know if things will change. And that used to scare me. Now, I see it differently. Motivation doesn't always come from certainty. Sometimes it comes from familiarity, from knowing that even on tired days, I've shown up before. I've made it through before. And that quiet memory is enough to help me try again.
There's something important about how we end the day. Not with productivity, but with care. A simple meal, a shower, turning off the light a little earlier. These things may look small, but they send a message. They say, today mattered. Your effort mattered. When we end the day gently, the next day feels less threatening. Not exciting, not perfect, just possible.
And maybe that's the kind of motivation we actually need. Not the loud kind that tells us to chase something, but the quiet kind that tells us we're allowed to continue at our own pace. Going to work again tomorrow doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that even tired versions of ourselves are enough to keep moving. And that trust can be surprisingly powerful.
If you're listening to this after a long day and you feel worn down, I hope you hear this clearly. You don't need to feel motivated right now. You don't need to feel hopeful. You don't need to have answers. You only need to be here, to rest, to breathe, to let the day end. Tomorrow can wait. And when it comes, you'll meet it as you are. And that is already enough.